So should you make time for We Live in Time? Let's talk about it now. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Past. I'm here to talk to you about A24's new romantic drama comedy. It's a little bit of both called We Live in Time. It's coming to theaters nationwide on October 18th, 2024. It is a new film directed by John Crowley, written by Nick Payne, and starring Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. My hot take is I think you should watch it. It is a very mixed emotion type of film because it has this beautiful music, this wonderful cast, like great chemistry between the two of them, and some humor, but some very, very big moments. It has heavy moments, but it has humor to kind of like lighten those up. So I actually enjoyed this. There really wasn't much I didn't like about this movie. There's a few minor nits I had, but overall, I thought it was a well done film. I thought it was enjoyable. So my hot take is I think you should probably watch it. So all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are some big surprises, and the way that this story is told kind of keeps those big surprises until later. You might want to turn it off when I get to the recap section, but before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in We Live in Time, you have two main characters. You got Almut, who's played by Florence Pugh, and Tobias, played by Andrew Garfield, and they are brought together by a random encounter and they start their life. But unfortunately for them, certain things happen that force them to kind of live in the moment. So do they live in the moment? Do they maximize their time? Well, you have to watch the movie to find out. So things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the music. It has a really wonderful soundtrack. It's kind of understated, but it has this beautiful like acoustic guitar soundtrack that is really wonderful. It's a really great way to set the mood, and it kind of like fits with the theme of this movie. This movie is a little bit understated. It's very much like a character-driven piece, and so and the guitar helps to amplify that mood. The second thing I love the cast. Like Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, they're great together. They have really great chemistry. They're fun to see. You definitely get a lot of the humor and heart from them. They got a lot of fun banter. They have a lot of very dramatic moments. It definitely goes up and down, and that's a lot to do with the cast and their performances. The third thing I loved, it's funny. It's a very funny movie. There's a lot of really funny moments. You kind of have to in a movie that has, this heavy subject matter. So the humor is very welcome to break things up. The fourth thing I loved, it's cute. It's got some very cute, uh, you know, moments. It's these two building a life, and so that leads to a lot of very like sweet moments as they are growing and building this together. And the last thing I love, it's also pretty heavy. Like there are some heavy subject matter in here. It deals with kind of like maximizing your time. And so that leads to some moments that are very dramatic, which is good. If you've got humor and heart, if you've got drama and laughter, it is a nice combination. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much, I'll go with like out of order storytelling. I understand why they did it. I'll go to that in the recap, but it was confusing at the start because it jumps around. I mean, it's a movie about time, I guess, so it makes sense. But it doesn't really always tell you where you are in the timeline. So sometimes it takes a bit to figure out where exactly you are. And it also means like when something big is about to happen, you want to find it out, it'll like jump somewhere else. The second thing I didn't love as much, there was like one minor point about the ending, but I'm not going to go into it here. I overall liked the ending, but there was one minor thing about the ending. And the last thing I didn't love, that horse that went viral, it's barely in the movie. There's like one split second scene where you see that carousel horse. I was hoping for more. I guess that's all they needed to then publish this picture. But that horse just makes a very minor appearance. I was hoping for more of it. So all that being said, We Live in Time comes to theaters nationwide on October 18th, 2024. Like I said, I think you should check it out. It has some humor, it has some heart, it has a really great cast. So I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So like I said, this film has an out of order storytelling, which I think I know why. Like as you're watching the movie, it makes sense because otherwise this movie would have a very kind of like dramatic, heavy end, and the out of order storytelling lets you kind of like interpose some of the more heavy scenes with scenes earlier, some funnier scenes, things like that. But I'm going to tell this review, or I'm going to tell the recap in chronological order, just to make it easier. I'm not going to try to jump around. I don't remember where it jumped around, so I'm just going to tell it in chronological order. So basically, you got Tobias, who works for some sort of like wheat company, like wheat, I don't know, some British Wheaties, I guess. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but he works for some sort of food, and he is also going through a divorce. Now he's traveling and he's getting ready to sign the divorce papers, but he doesn't have a pen. So he has to go get a pen. He goes out in his like hotel bathrobe because he was just ready to like sign these papers and be done for the night. Buys a pen and some other treats, and then he's crossing the street, drops the pen, leans over to pick it up, and that's when boom, he gets hit by a car. And that car is being driven by Almut, played by Florence Pugh. She is a really good chef who's about to open a restaurant, and Tobias walked in front of her car. What can she do? So she ends up going to stay with him at the hospital, making sure he's okay. And when he wakes up, they meet, and he finds out that she's a chef. She invites him to her restaurant, says the least that she could do. I mean, look, it's not really your fault. He stepped in front of your car. Like, it's really kind of on him. But she's very nice about it. She invites him to his restaurant, and she notices his wedding ring, so he says, you should bring your wife too. Now, later, Tobias signs the papers. And so when the restaurant does open, he goes and tells her that he actually doesn't have a wife, that they just got divorced. And this leads to a romance. This leads to a romance between Tobias and Almut. They hook up that night and seem to have a really fun relationship. However, early on, they fight about kids. And kids seems like it could be a deal breaker for them. Almut doesn't want kids. Tobias really wants kids. And so eventually, he just kind of like walks out because basically he wanted to bring up this conversation early because he wanted to see if they should, if this was going to be a painful conversation here or a horrible conversation down the line. However, he eventually capitulates and comes back and apologizes to her in the worst possible place. It's like a baby shower for one of her friends. And he like comes in, orders pizza to their house or like follows the pizza person in to then talk to her about how he wants to live in the moment and he doesn't want to like think about the future. He wants to just live in the now. And he thinks that they should stay together. It's at a baby shower. Maybe he didn't know that it was a baby shower. I guess that's possible. Maybe they weren't talking after they broke up. But he like jumps in on this baby shower, makes the moment about him. Apparently it works though, because they do stay together, they do get together, and now they are building a life together. Now, unfortunately, this life gets a little bit derailed when Almut gets cancer, I guess stage 3 ovarian cancer. And they choose to fight it, but there are a few options. One, she could have I think a hysterectomy, take it all out. That's the decision that will give the highest likelihood that she won't get the cancer back. But that also means that she can't have kids, and Tobias is very interested in kids. Now, another option is I guess leave one ovary, pick one ovary, probably the healthier one, and leave that. And then she could potentially have kids in the future. She decides to keep one ovary. And I liked that they did it this way. I was thinking that they were going to make it so that Tobias was going to like force the issue or try to push the issue. And that would then kind of lead to some complications down the line. But she's the one that chose this. I assume she chose it partly because of what Tobias was thinking, but I think also she wanted to have kids also. So she chose to keep an ovary. And she does beat the cancer. It goes into remission and they celebrate and they start trying to have a kid. And eventually they use IVF. She gets pregnant and they have a daughter. And the daughter delivery scene was a lot of fun. It was very strange. I think it was on New Year's Eve. There was a lot of traffic. They couldn't get to the hospital. And so they had to eventually deliver it in a gas station bathroom. To be fair, a fairly clean gas station bathroom, probably the cleanest gas station bathroom I've seen, but still not your ideal delivery experience. But they do it. Their family is growing and their daughter starts to grow up. But Almut's cancer eventually comes back. It comes back with a vengeance. And Almut is hesitant about whether or not she wants to fight the cancer, whether she wants to go through the whole process again. And she basically tells Tobias, like, I would rather have 6 amazing months with you than 12 horrible months as she's like going through the treatment and trying to fight it. And also during this time, Alma gets invited to compete in this like global chef competition, kind of like a Top Chef Global. It's not that, but it's kind of like that. She is invited to try out to represent the UK in this overall like European Top Chef, essentially. So a lot on her plate. Alma is a very competitive person. She wants to be the best. She wants to do what she can. And so she agrees to do this. Now, meanwhile, Tobias does this really cute proposal to her. She comes home. There's like all these candles and like different ingredients forming arrows. And eventually he proposes that they get married. I guess they hadn't gotten married before. They were, partners at that point with a kid. And so he proposes that they get married and she agrees. So it seems like this was a catalyst for him to also like want her to fight, because after this, she starts trying to fight the cancer. And I don't know if it was the proposal, I don't know if it was some other change, I don't know if it was this global competition, but for some reason, she starts wanting to fight the cancer. But she's still preparing for this global competition. Now, she makes it through the like qualifiers, and she gets picked to represent the UK. And so now she's getting ready for the actual competition. It's like essentially a European championship where she's going to go up against the best European chefs. And so she has to prepare, but she's doing all this in secret. She doesn't tell Tobias. She doesn't want to like, I guess, stress him out. So she doesn't tell him at all. Now, they are planning their wedding because Tobias proposed to her. And so they find the venue, they pick a date, June 5th, 2023. But we also find out the quarterfinals for this European competition also could be June 5th, 2023. She doesn't tell him. She doesn't tell him at all. Now, she is still practicing in secret. She's still getting ready. And eventually, one day, she's practicing so hard, she forgets to pick up her daughter from daycare. Tobias normally does it, but he had a meeting that was going to go over. She said she could do it, but she just completely forgot. She was so focused on the competition, and her daughter was left at daycare. When she gets home, Tobias gets mad at her, and she finally tells him what she's doing. She's doing this competition. And he gets more mad at her because her, treatment is not going great, and he is worried that she is maybe putting too much on her body, like too much stress on her body. She's like in this grueling prep period. Her body's not resting enough. She's not like giving herself the best chance to fight it. So he gets very mad at her, and she basically comes to him and says, like, she essentially says something along the lines of like, I don't want my daughter's last memories of me to be like treatment. I want to like give her something to remember me by. And so she wants to do this competition so that her daughter will remember her. A nice idea. I don't think her daughter's pretty young. I don't think she'll actually remember her, but Alma also is a very competitive person. She wants to be the best. And so I think this was also like something that she wanted to do before she died. So they work it out somehow. Tobias is a saint throughout this movie. And Tobias has to throw away these wedding invitations that he had like already gotten for June 5th. She goes to the competition. She finishes it. It is tough at the start, but she does finish it. At the end, she like has trouble putting on the final little ingredient. I don't know what it was, maybe like a little dill leaf on each dessert. And her sous chef or her, second chef does finish it up. They finish on time. We don't ever find out whether they win because she then leaves to go hang out with her family and go ice skating, which was annoying. I would have liked to know if she won or not. I would have liked to know the result of if she won. But we do see the family ice skating. It's a sweet scene. Alma was also apparently like a world-class figure skater when she was younger. So Alma has all sorts of skills. The figure skating thing was weird. Like, I mean, I guess it makes sense. It shows like she is super competitive and like has had a competitive spirit, but it almost is never referenced. It's referenced once with her family, and then at the end scene, it almost felt superfluous, but it's fine. They were skating at the end. They went to an ice rink after the competition. They skated around, and then we eventually see Alma like skating around, like she does a little turn or something. And then we see that fade away, and now we're back to their house where they have like a farm, and Tobias is there. He is getting some eggs with her daughter, and they have a dog. Earlier, we found out that they were thinking about getting a dog to help their daughter deal with grief because it's sometimes easier for children who have lost a pet to then deal with other types of loss. Well, it didn't really work out. I guess they probably didn't get the dog in time, but now they have a dog and a daughter, but no Alma. It seems like Alma is gone here. But Tobias is taking care of her. They're gathering eggs. They're gonna go make some eggs, and he starts preparing eggs the same way that Almut did. When Almut first met him, she prepared him eggs, and it looks like he is teaching his daughter the same thing. So that is the end of the movie. They prepare eggs. It's very sweet. Tobias is very sweet with the kid, and they start like mixing up the eggs and getting ready to cook. But that is We Live in Time. Like I said, I wish there was a little bit more about the ending, right? Like, did she win the competition? Her second was an interesting character. It would have been nice to see like a little bit more. Maybe Tobias visits her at the restaurant, and they kind of like, I don't know, see a picture of her, and then in the picture, maybe it's a picture of her like, I don't know, from a newspaper about like a chef who won a championship. I don't know, something to give us a little bit more closure. It's fine. The movie overall is sweet, and like I said, has a nice balance of humor and like heavy subject matter. So definitely check out We Live in Time. It comes to theaters on October 18th, 2024. And if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.